special treat for y'all today here in our farmhouse kitchen. Tootsie is going to be my helper today, and we're going to make some good biscuits and gravy. You ready to help? Yeah. Y'all come along with me and see what me and old hubby whip up for you this morning. I am enjoying my cup of coffee this morning, y'all. I'm getting woken up and get our day going around here. So I have all of my stuff set out here for y'all to show you. And the first thing I want to start with is sitting right here. I have a cast iron pan sitting out. This is going to be used for our biscuits. We are going to make some homemade biscuits today, y'all. And I got this recipe off of another channel and wanted to share it with y'all. These are some good biscuits. And if y'all haven't been over to Appalachia's Homestead with Patara, definitely need to go over there and check her channel out. This is where I got this recipe from. And we have made these biscuits several times here, and they go like hotcakes around here. So, in these biscuits, you can mix it up and do different things with them. I've actually baked them before and added some shredded cheese and a little bit of garlic in them, and they're good that way too. But today we're just going to make the plain ones. So the first thing I've got, you want to get you some self-rising flour. We're going to do 2 cups of self-rising flour. I've got, as you can see, my butter out here. We're going to use 4 tablespoons of the butter for our biscuits. I've got my cream cheese sitting out here. We're going to use about 1/4 of this block of cream cheese. And the last thing, this recipe calls for a cup of buttermilk. And hubby and I do not have buttermilk in the house today. And a lot of times we don't keep buttermilk on hand. So you can make your own buttermilk. So this is a cup of milk. I've already done it. And a splash of vinegar. And you just pop it in the fridge for a little bit. And what it does when it sits in the refrigerator, it starts curdling up, and that's what gives you your buttermilk to use for these biscuits. So like I said, if you don't have buttermilk on hand, you can make your own. It's just a cup of regular milk and just a splash of vinegar. Pop it in your fridge to get nice and cold for it to start curdling up for you. All right, so we are going to get started here. So a lot of times we're a little intimidated trying to make homemade biscuits, right? Don't let this recipe intimidate you at all. This is very simple and very easy. So you're gonna need a sifter because this flour is gonna need to be sifted, okay? All right, so we're gonna start out with our 2 cups of flour. There's 1. I'm gonna put just a little bit of extra in there. And before I start doing this, we're gonna need to preheat our oven to 450. You want your oven set on 450, okay? And we're gonna pop this in the oven so your pan will go ahead and start getting warm for you. All right. So I'm gonna sift up my flour. You want that nice and sifted. And don't be scared to make a little bit of mess because it cleans right on up. And this recipe, you're gonna have a little bit of mess with it, but that's okay. Sometimes messes in the kitchen make for the best meals. I think Nana's old sifter did better than the new one. All right, so we're gonna do 4 tablespoons of butter. So that's half a stick of butter, okay? And what we're gonna do You can grate it, or you can cut it up in pieces. And what I like to do is just cut it up in small pieces in your butter. And you want to do your butter first, y'all. If you use a little bit of extra butter, that's okay. Use your judgment on it. These biscuits, you can't have enough butter for sure. So like I said, you want to get these just cut up in small pieces. And like I said, you can also use your grater to grate the butter in there if you need to. So what we're going to do now is we are going to get that butter mushed up really, really good into your flour. You want to mush it into the flour. So all those little pieces, we're going to go through and we're going to fill it around and get all that butter mixed good in this flour. And if you don't have the time to make homemade biscuits in the morning with the gravy that we're going to make for you today, it's okay. Just go get a can or two at the grocery store and pop those in the oven. It does just as good. But if y'all have not tried this recipe for homemade biscuits, oh, y'all don't know what you're missing. This is the best biscuit recipe that we have ever had. And who would have thought to put cream cheese in your biscuit mix, right? But it makes for some delicious biscuits. The next step is our cream cheese. And like I said, you only need about 1/4 of a block of this. We're going to do this the same way we did the butter. I'm just going to cut it up in little pieces. And get this in the bowl. And we will mush it around just like we did the butter. That's what I'm doing now. I'm going through. I got all that cream cheese in there. I'm just going around and getting it mushed into this flour mixture really, really good. And these biscuits too, hubby and I did another video for y'all a while back. And you know, these biscuits don't always have to be for breakfast. You can do this for lunch or dinner. And we did make these biscuits one other time for y'all and had them with supper one night, and they were really, really good. So it's not just a breakfast biscuit. I think my helper gave up on me. I think she went to go take her morning nap. Oh, Tootsie. You gave up helping, girl? She says she's not getting anything good out of it, so she's just going to sit there and wait for something to fall on the floor. All right. So it looks like we got that mixed up really good in there. And let me wash my hands real quick. And if you got any chunks of butter or cream cheese in there, that's all right. It'll melt up nice and fine in there. All right. So the next step is our milk. We're just going to pour that in there, and y'all can see how it poured out, and there's chunks. A little bit of chunks left in there. And that is what the vinegar does. It helps to curdle your milk So we're gonna mix this in here. All right, move some of this stuff out of the way. Because the next step is the fun part, y'all. All right, so I have my other half a stick of butter, right? I'm gonna open this. My pan is in the oven, warming up. I'm gonna pop this in this pan and let that be melting. You want your counter nice and clean. Take you a little bit of flour. You're gonna put it out. On the counter, okay? All right, and I'm gonna give it just a few minutes for that butter to melt real good in that pan for me, and we'll be right back at you. All right, guys, whenever you're working with your cast iron, you want you a nice heavy-duty oven mitt because those things get really, really hot. I have burnt myself pulling cast iron out of the oven before. So you can cut back on your butter in your pan and just use maybe just a tablespoon full of butter. So right now, what I'm gonna do is just take chunks of these out, just to make them into a ball size. Y'all can see about the size of that, right? And then I'm just gonna throw them in the pan. So you wanna take them a ball size out of your bowl over here, throw it on the flour, roll it around just a little bit. All right, so those are good to go. We're ready to go in the oven. All right, y'all. Our oven is preheated to 450. So we are going to pop these biscuits here in the oven, and we're gonna cook them for about 15 to 20 minutes. You just want them to be a nice golden brown. So depending on your oven, just keep an eye on them, but anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes and those will be ready to go. I'm gonna clean up this little bit of mess here and go ahead and get started on our gravy. So the next step is our gravy, and I am going to let hubby make the gravy this morning because he makes some good dry beef gravy, y'all. The best. And you know, we had a request for some biscuits and gravy from our friend Mr. Mike over at Midway Farms. So Mr. Mike, you try this recipe out and you let me and hubby know what you think.
All right, so what you got here is this the Armour canned dry beef. If you use the big jar, you do not need to add salt. If you use the smaller jar, they have a smaller jar of it, you do need to add a little bit of salt to get it the flavor. But just pop the top off of it, and what I do is just take it out, and you can leave it in the roll that it's already in, and just slice it up in thin slices. And that's all you got to do that. Then take one stick of butter. Y'all probably thinking we like butter around here. Then just turn your burner on about probably about 4, something like that, just to go ahead and get the butter melted up.
So for this gravy recipe, like hubby said, we're using the large jar of the dry beef, so we're not gonna need to add any extra salt for this. We're also gonna be using some pepper, a stick of butter, which hubby's got in the pan melting, And then you're gonna need self-rising flour and milk. So that's all that goes into this gravy recipe. So hubby's got the butter melting good here in the pan. And once that gets melted,
we're going to add the dried beef to it and let that cook for just a few minutes, just to get some of the renders the salt out of the meat. That's why you don't want to add salt with the big jar. If you add any salt to it, it'll be so salty you can't eat it. But with the small jar, you need to add salt to it to give it that biscuit and gravy flavor, because there just isn't quite enough salt in that little jar.
So I don't know if y'all can see inside the oven. I turned the light on, but our biscuits are starting to rise up and looking good. And our timer, we've got a little over 6 minutes left, almost 7 minutes, and they should be ready to pop out soon.
All right, so the butter's pretty much melted. I'm gonna turn it back down to about medium, and then you just take the meat, just slide it in there, and just let that sit in the butter. And once it heats up, it'll get some of the salt out of it. You can use a cast iron for this. I just don't like doing the gravy in my cast iron because it sticks to the cast iron so bad, and I don't like having to scrub my finish after I season the pans. So this old stainless steel pan right here that was my grandmama's, it works perfect for making this. You turn it back up just a little bit, and you can see it bubbling just a little bit.
So hubby, how long do you want to cook your dry beef?
Like in this stage, probably just a minute or two. Just enough to render that salt out of the meat. I'm sure it'll come out later on in the cooking when you add the milk and stuff, but this is the way I've always done it.
Well, my stomach's growling already.
Yeah, it smells good. You can't beat the smell of that dried beef. It's nice. Especially cooking with the butter. Alright, so y'all see over here how I push the meat to the side and your butter's starting to come out of it. So what I do is just get me this is kind of a ballpark thing here. It's pretty much about a cup of self-rising flour, not quite. I'd say about 3/4 of a cup. And you dump that in there.
So you want to dump it on the side where your butter is?
Yeah.
Away from your meat.
And then you can hold your pan to the side just a little bit. And what you do is you mix that flour. You want to definitely mix it up before you add the cold milk. If you don't, you'll have just a gummy mess. And the flour will actually float on top of your milk. So you want to mix it in with the butter really good. Alright, and then what I do, a lot of people just dump it in here. I just put a little bit of milk, just enough to help get that flour mixed on up.
So maybe about a cup?
Yeah, about a cup.
To start out with?
Mm-hmm. And then that'll help you get that flour mixed up even better. Then you can bring your beef on over.
Add milk as you go.
Yeah. Now with this recipe, there are numerous ways to make it. You can make sausage gravy the exact same way. You will have to add some salt to that. Just cook you a whole pound of the sausage, the little tubes of it. And then once you do that, there shouldn't be any grease if you use a good sausage. If there is grease, just drain the grease off of it. But you just do this exact same way for sausage gravy. And we do it both ways. It just depends on what mood you're in.
Right. So if you're making this with the sausage, you want to cook your sausage first in a separate pan.
Yeah.
And just ground your sausage up really, really good. And once it's cooked, you'll add your sausage to this gravy if you want to use sausage instead of the dry beef.
Yeah, and with this pan, depends on how many people you're feeding. I always put about that much milk in. Just probably altogether about 5 or 6 cups of milk. Now, I wanted to tell y'all a little trick too that we've been doing for years. These jars, to get the label off, you just take your empty jar, you put it in a sink with some hot water, and just let it sit for about 15 or so minutes, and the label will peel right off, and there will be still a little bit of gummy residue. So you just wipe that off with your fingers. But these jars are outstanding. One, you can use it as a glass. Just a glass to use.
Yeah,
like
we've used it to drink juice out of.
Yeah, drink juice out of. Or you can snap the tops. They seal up pretty good. You can store seeds in them. Nails and screws or something in your workshop, or wire nuts or anything like that. I mean, they have many uses. Many uses. So
Yeah, so we always keep our little jars like that.
yeah.
And reuse them for all kinds of things. So my oven is going off. I'm going to check these biscuits real quick. Just take a peek. And it looks like they might need a few more minutes. So that was 15 minutes. We're going to do about 5 more minutes. So we're going to end up at 20 minutes with these biscuits. If I can get my timer going. Oh, I'm putting it on 20 minutes. Okay, we're good. All right, so we got it going now at 5 more minutes.
All right.
See, my brain's not functioning. I need some good biscuits and gravy to get my brain flowing here. That coffee hadn't kicked in quite yet.
All right, so what I'm doing here, I always just use a fork, and you just put the fork flat on the bottom of the pan to keep, because you gotta not constantly stir it, but you gotta keep up with it to make sure because the flour will settle to the bottom of the pan and scald, and you do not want that. So to get this going a little bit, I'm gonna turn it up to about medium and a half, about 6, in between about medium and 6. And then you just go over it. Now you see there's still a few little clumps in it right there of the flour. But once you keep doing this and it warms up, it will break up into the gravy.
Yeah, so once this flour gets dissolved in here really good, that's gonna thicken this gravy up right here. It'll thicken up in the milk. And if y'all haven't tried this gravy recipe, this is a definite must try right here. This is a special treat for us. You know, the price of this dried beef has gone up
substantially.
Quite a lot. So
yeah, this jar was like $2.99, and I bought this just the other day, about 2 days ago, and it was $5.97. $5.97.
Right, so it's gone up quite a bit in price. So we don't get to eat the dried beef and gravy as much.
No.
So when we do have this for breakfast, y'all, this is a special treat.
Yeah. And as far as I know, honestly, I've never seen the dried beef from anywhere else. I mean, I've looked at
from another manufacturer.
Yeah, from another manufacturer. That is the only dried beef I've ever seen, even growing up. I'm sure somebody else makes it, but they don't sell it in any of the South Carolina grocery stores that I've seen.
So I don't know if y'all can tell or not, but the sun is coming up over the pond. And you can see it shining right here in this pan of gravy. And ready to get our day started around here. All right, so timer went off on the oven, and we are going to get these biscuits pulled out of here. And y'all can see they are a nice golden brown on the top. And what we're gonna do now is add more butter. Oh goodness. everything down in the South is healthy. Y'all know that, right? We like our butter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna open up a stick, and while they're still nice and hot, I am going to take and run over the top with my butter and let that butter melt down into the tops of these biscuits. And you wanna rub it in really good on them.
Tootsie said she's eating biscuits come out the oven, so she's got moving closer.
Yeah. You ready for a biscuit? Tucker likes Mama's biscuits.
Yes, he does.
He loves his Mama's biscuits. And if y'all hadn't seen that video, you need to go check it out, because he does some pretty neat tricks to get a bite or two of his Mama's biscuits. So,
Y'all be like our sweet tea and butter down here in the South.
we sure do. Alright, so y'all can see I've got that butter on there really good on these biscuits, and that's just soaking in on the tops. So our biscuits are ready. We're just waiting on our gravy now.
All right, so this is starting to thicken up really good. It's getting there. It's got a little bit more. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of pepper to it. This is optional. This is just preference. You don't have to use pepper at all. I just put some on the top and mix it in to give it a little bit of flavor. I like to actually put it on, once I put it on my biscuit, I like to put pepper on it.
Yeah, hubby likes his pepper.
Yeah. Y'all can see it starting to thicken up now. It's not so. And I got it turned up. If you turn it up, you need to make sure you stay busy with it and keep an eye on it and keep it stirred up, because it will scald, and you don't want scalded milk.
No.
Once it starts bubbling really good, it's pretty much ready. Once you start seeing it bubble, it's steaming now.
And all you need to make and stir this with is a fork.
Yep.
So y'all can see it's starting to bubble up now in that pan.
And all you do is let it bubble like that for a minute or two. Just depends on how thick it starts getting. And then it's kind of honestly like the Alfredo sauce we made. It thickens up more as it cools off. Alright y'all, so it's pretty much ready now. It's pretty thicked up. So go ahead and cut the heat off. And just keep an eye on it, because the burner is still hot and still will scald it.
So right now, just thicken that up a little bit more.
Yeah, and then you can pull it off the heat and just let it sit. That way it don't scald on the bottom, because I have done that before. Turned it off and got busy with something else, and the burner just being so hot and not stirring it had scalded, made it thicken up on the bottom burner.
Right. And when it sits here and cools off, it'll thicken up even more. But y'all can see how nice and thick this gravy is already.
Yeah.
And that's some good gravy right there.
Yes, it is.
All right. I'm going to show y'all how well all this turned out. So I got my biscuit, and they pop out of this pan very good. They don't stick. That's what the butter in the bottom of the pan helps with. And I want y'all to look at those nice fluffy biscuits.
It's a good looking biscuit.
There is nothing like some good homemade biscuits. And I want to send a special shout out to Patara at Appalachia's Homestead for sharing this recipe with us. We use this all the time around here to make these biscuits, and this is definitely our go-to biscuit recipe. I've never had a biscuit this good. So y'all can see how thick that gravy is right there. And as a matter of fact, while I'm at it, I think I might just get me 2 biscuits. But I wanted to show y'all what those biscuits look like on the inside. And y'all can see that is scoopfuls of gravy and dried beef. And I'm telling you, this is a good breakfast. Mr. Mike, here's your biscuits and gravy. I hope you enjoy them. And if all of y'all have not been over to check out Mr. Mike's channel, he is at Midway Farms, and he is a beef cattle farmer up in Virginia. And y'all be sure to keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. They had a lot of damage from Hurricane Helene, and still in the process of getting trees off of fences and having to rebuild several barns that were taken out by the wind damage that they had up there. So Mr. Mike, just know that you and your family are in our thoughts and prayers, and we look forward to having you down south for breakfast with us one morning. All right, so Tootsie decided to get up off the floor because she said she didn't have any droppings this morning, and she is ready for a treat.
Yeah.
And I think I hear old Tucker coming up the stairs.
Yeah.
Yep.
He said, "Oh, breakfast is served."
Here he comes.
No.
Tucker, come here, buddy. Tell everybody, hey. Tucker said he is not missing out on his mama's biscuits. So, hubby and I are going to bless this food that we are about to receive and thank our Lord and Savior for our many blessings that he provides for us every single day. And for all of you that are still getting your lives back in order and rebuilding from these storms that we had, just know that all of you are still in our thoughts and prayers. And y'all got to try this recipe out. Tucker's already doing his thing. He said, "Mama, give me a biscuit." So y'all try this recipe and let us know what y'all think. And go check these other channels out. We hope that y'all have a wonderful and blessed day. Y'all be safe out there. Take care. God bless.
God bless.
Y'all come back and see us soon.